Jack and Barbara got married in 1960 and have remained married since. Jack Nicklaus has won 18 major golf championships, making himself and his wife Barbara famous. Despite growing to become one of the greatest golfers, Jack remained a family man. Jack Nicklaus is the head of a big family, a pretty close one too. So close that they all live within 10 minutes away from each other. We bet you probably didn't know that. With 5 kids and 22 grandchildren, you'd need an estate to house everyone during the holidays. So maybe living close to each other was the easy solution. Jack is super connected to his family. He even shares the same birthday with one of his grandchildren. Why don't you stick around and find out which grandchild has that privilege? Barbara Bash was walking around the Ohio State campus when she came across an old friend from high school. That friend was dating Jack Nicklaus at the time. Fortunately, her friend had to go to class, so Jack walked her to work and called her later that night, asking to take her on a date. Barbara didn't know it yet, but her decision to go on that date would bring her more fame than she could have ever imagined. Barbara's professional life is not something most golf fans are aware of. She's known as the wife of one of the greatest golfers to have ever lived. However, Barbara Nicklaus is a registered nurse. Barbara was in the first week of college studying to be a nurse while Jack was majoring in pharmacy when they met in 1957. On the 31st of December 1959, they got engaged and married in June the following year. They have remained married for 62 years, an impressive achievement, and one that's not so common these days. Jack and Barbara have 5 children together, 4 sons, Jack Jr., Stephen, Gary, Michael, and a daughter, Nancy. Barbara and Jack were pretty young when they decided to tie the knot. Recalling the experience, she said, "We were 20 when we got married. We were both still in school. He was trying to sell insurance, he was trying to go to school, and trying to play golf, and not really doing any of them up to his expectations. They were young, naive, broke, and didn't have 2 cents they could call their own. Jack and Barbara had 3 children before they could afford to raise one. It was at that point that they decided Jack should go pro. Barbara is a PGA Distinguished Service Award-winning philanthropist. Besides being Jack Nicklaus's wife, she's well known for her charity work in the children's healthcare sector. She was born and raised in Ohio, but she's of a British Germanic ethnicity. Barbara and her husband started the non-profit charitable foundation Nicklaus Children's Healthcare Foundation. It was founded in 2004 in Palm Beach Garden of Florida. The foundation focuses on providing world-class pediatric healthcare to children. It works on the diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of childhood illnesses. Their only daughter, Nan O'Leary, inspired Jack and Barbara's decision to create this foundation. Nancy is regarded as Daddy's girl. When she was an infant, Nancy accidentally inhaled a piece of a crayon, which got stuck in her throat. She started having choking episodes where the sliver of that piece of crayon would block her airflow. But before her parents could get her to the hospital, the episode would already be over. The piece of crayon would have moved and she'd be breathing normally again. The episodes never stopped, and Jack and Barbara decided to take Nancy to the Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus. A scan showed that she had a piece of blue crayon in her chest. At that point, Barbara decided that if she and her husband were ever in a position to help anyone, it had to be children. Thanks to that experience, the world is blessed with Jack Nicklaus's Foundation for Children. Jack made sure he was never an absent father. When he turned pro, he made a vow that he would never be away from home for more than 2 weeks at a time. Nancy has very pleasant memories of her father. Every birthday or Christmas, he would make sure he stopped for an antique for her, no matter what part of the world he was in. Thanks to her father, she has the most wonderful collection of different types of antiques. When they were in Germany, she said she would love to go to Paris. Jack surprised her by taking her to Paris the next day so they could have dinner and spend the night there. Nancy isn't the only kid to enjoy Jack's superb parenting skills. Jack Nicklaus II, Jack and Barbara's eldest son, has this to say about his father. "My dad has been the most amazing role model to me. He's made the right choices, he's said the right things, and he has done the right things. I'm so proud of the choices and the direction he's taken in his life. He was always there. You can be there and not present, but my mom and dad were always there, and they were present as well. Jack Jr. is 100% involved in his parents' business. He's the president of Nicklaus Design and a board member of the Nicklaus Children's Healthcare Foundation. He's also the chairman of the Muirfield Village Golf Club and the Memorial Tournament, created by his father. For Jack Jr., his father was always present and showing up for him. Jack Sr. once flew down in the middle of a tournament to watch one of Jr.'s big football games and flew back after the game to continue his own tournament. Jack Jr. recalls the experience saying, "Not everybody has the success to afford to get on a plane to watch their children play, but even fewer people that have the ability to do that make the call to go do that." Jack was definitely the best father. He has a soft spot in his heart for his kids, so soft that his heart goes mushy when a new kid joins the family. Nicklaus has always been praised for having nerves of steel on the golf course, but the birth of his kids had him on the floor, literally. Jack fainted at the sight of each newborn child. When Nancy was born, he was out for 15 minutes, with the doctor joking that he spent more time in the recovery room than his wife Barbara. Jack was in Cincinnati when Jack Jr. was born. He came back to Columbus only to keel over when they brought Jack Jr. out to him. That was in 1961. In 1963, when Steve was born, Jack was on the carpet when they brought Steve to the waiting room. With Gary in 1969, Jack was prepared with a pillow and smelling salts. But as soon as he saw the newborn, he was out. It wasn't until Michael's birth in 1973 that Jack stopped fainting. Jack Jr. and Gary both played on the PGA Tour. Jack Jr. admits that Gary is a better player. Gary is the only son of Jack Nicklaus to play golf full-time. He hasn't won a title or any major championships, but he has earned around $8 million in prize money. The other boys are interested in the business aspect of their father's life and not golf. Steve is the vice president of Nicklaus Design and is in charge of business development for the company. He also plays golf, but he's at best an amateur. He teams up with the Golden Bear in the Pro-Am. Like Steve and Jack Jr., Michael is also involved in golf design. He also helps with the day-to-day running of Nicklaus Design. Jack Nicklaus's family is close-knit, despite being big enough to create 2 separate soccer teams. Jack Nicklaus has 22 grandchildren from his 5 kids, who all live within 10 minutes of each other. Kelly O'Leary, Nancy's only daughter, is the luckiest of all the grandchildren, as she shares a connection with the Golden Bear that no other grandchild can boast about. Kelly shares the same birthday with the great Jack Nicklaus. She is studying at the University of Georgia and had once caddied for Jack at the par 3 contest played before the Masters. About sharing the same birthday with Jack Nicklaus, Kelly has this to say: "Having the same birthday with him is awesome. It's really cool because since my mom is the only daughter in their family, me being her only daughter with 4 boys as well, and sharing the same birthday as him is really special." Jack isn't just special because he's one of the greatest golfers on the planet. His closeness to his family and the connection he shares with each and every one of them is what makes Jack Nicklaus a special human. However, like every family, the Nicklaus family is not without its ups and downs. Jack faced a personal loss when he lost one of his grandkids. At just 17 months old, Jake was lost to the Nicklaus family forever. Jake was the son of Steve Nicklaus, Jack's second son. He was playing in the hot tub with his brother and a nanny. When the nanny brought them to change clothes, she lost sight of Jake, who managed to return to the hot tub. After a frantic search, the nanny found Jake face down in the hot tub. He somehow managed to climb over the child barriers and get into the tub alone. The paramedics on the scene tried, but failed to revive him. An investigation was carried out regarding the incident, but no foul play was considered when the investigation was concluded. Be sure to check out more fabulous videos on Golf Plus. See you there!